Tekashi 6ix9ine is one of the most controversial rappers the hip-hop industry has ever seen. With his aggressive, intense style on the mic, involvement in a lot of gang-related activity, and reputation for feuding with pretty much everyone, it is no wonder that the rapper has repeatedly rubbed people the wrong way. Over the last few years, people have grown sicker and sicker of all the stuff he has pulled. He made a lot more enemies when he snitched on a bunch of members of the 9 Trade gangsters to get off easy himself. Having made so many enemies, 6ix9ine had to deal with the consequences of his actions when he got checked by Goons, gunfire, and broken bottles in Minnesota. 2018 was an extremely eventful year for 6ix9ine. Heading into the year, the rapper had built up a ton of momentum for himself, seeing as he really broke out as a performer in late 2017. And his rise to fame started in a pretty weird way. Back in July 2017, an Instagram post of his went viral on social media, especially Reddit. It didn't go viral because fans were interested in learning more about the artist, but it had more to do with his crazy tattoos and rainbow-colored hair. Odds are that people just wanted to make fun of his insane look online, but it did lead to an unexpected boost for the rising rapper. Sure, everyone had a lot to say about the way he looked, but that's the thing, people had things to say. He caught their attention, and once he did, he held on to it. That was enough for people to start checking out his music. He made good use of the attention he was getting. Just a couple of months later, in October, he dropped his first commercial single, Gummo. The track was pretty successful, peaking at the 12th position on the Billboard Hot 100. Gummo continued to perform strongly in the months that followed, and was certified platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America, or RIAA, in December 2018. Anyway, he doubled down on the initial success of his debut track when he dropped Kuda a couple of months after Gummo. While not as successful as Gummo, Kuda still made it to the 61st position on the Billboard Hot 100. His third track, featuring Fetty Wap and a Boogie with the Hoodie, would also make it to the Hot 100, peaking at the 43rd position in early February 2018, roughly around the same time the rapper would head to Minnesota for a gig. The reason I took a minute to talk about what was going on in 6ix9ine's career was because it establishes the kind of mindset the rapper would have had while heading into Minnesota. Across the 2nd and 4th of February, 6ix9ine's performances would be interrupted by trouble and violence. After one of his shows, the rapper got into an altercation outside the venue that could have turned deadly really quickly. According to reports, guns were drawn and shots were fired, with people getting out of Dodge as quickly as possible. Luckily for Tekashi, he would not end up getting hurt in the altercation. When footage of the shootout hit social media, the rapper responded on Instagram saying, "Yo, Tekashi, why they so mad at you? Cause you're never gonna get touched. Why want me to get touched so badly? It'll never happen. I told you they will never touch me. Niggas can't lay a finger on me, man." A couple of nights later, on February 4th, there would be even more trouble at another performance. While there would be no guns involved, it would still be a pretty dangerous situation. During the performance, 6ix9ine would yell, "Brooklyn in the house," which made a bunch of goons really mad. They started throwing bottles and ice buckets at the rapper, hitting him and his bodyguards. Video footage from the incident also showed a member of Tekashi's entourage throwing one of the ice buckets back into the crowd. It is unclear how much damage 6ix9ine took, but it clearly wasn't bad, because he took to Instagram once more saying, "Still untouched, man. Minnesota, we with y'all, man. Y'all don't stop the bag, man." When it comes to all the times the rapper would be checked by goons, the 2 incidents in Minnesota would actually turn out to be the tamest encounters he would have. As a matter of fact, he would have to deal with 2 more pretty major incidents in February 2018, trouble in Texas. In the 3rd week of February, 6ix9ine would be slated to perform at Bar 23 in San Antonio, but heading into the show, he would be threatened by members of the Tango Origin gang. Why? Well, to answer that, we have to go back almost exactly 3 years to February 2015. All right, let's get into it. This is pretty sensitive stuff, so I am not going to get into too much detail out of respect to the victim. Basically, Tekashi was accused of having sexual contact with a minor. On February 21st, 2018, 6ix9ine went to an apartment in Harlem. The young girl be placed in a number of pretty messed up situations, and they were even shared on the rapper's Instagram account. The complaint against 6ix9ine was filed about a week and a half after the videos were shot, and the rapper had a couple of interesting comments to make about the entire situation. Firstly, he reportedly told police that he reshared the videos on his Instagram for his image, and when he was questioned about whether he knew the girl was underage or not, he said, "When she came in, she asked me how old I was, and I told her I was 18, and I assumed she was older. The way she was asking made me think she was older." The messed up thing is that in an interview Tekashi gave a couple of years later, he basically contradicted what he had said earlier. In the interview, he claimed that he had been 17 when the videos were shot, but a record of his statement to the police clearly stated that he was 18, which meant that he was was not a minor. Also, he was born on May 8, 1996, so anyone can do the math and confirm that the incident took place just a couple of months before he turned 19. That wasn't even the only contradiction. While addressing the videos, he said, "I'm not touching the girl, I'm not having sexual intercourse with the girl, I'm not doing nothing, she's just nude in some type of way." However, the complaint against the rapper stated that the third video clearly shows contact between Tekashi 6ix9ine and the underage girl. In October 2015, the rapper would plead guilty to the use of a child in a sexual performance with the terms of the charge stating, "A person is guilty of the use of a child in a sexual performance if knowing the character and content thereof he employs, authorizes or induces a child less than 17 years of age to engage in a sexual performance, or being a parent, legal guardian, or custodian of such child, he consents to the participation by such child in a sexual performance." Long story short, 6ix9ine would be given 4 years probation, during which time he would have to avoid getting arrested again or be involved in any gang activity. In addition to that, he was also instructed to do 1,000 hours of community service. The rapper would fail to stick to those conditions, but let's move on. So, as I had mentioned earlier, Tekashi 6ix9ine would be threatened by members of the Tango Origin gang ahead of his performance in San Antonio. The rapper was only a target because of the messed up stuff he had done back in 2015. This wasn't just some 2-bit gang either. It was the most dangerous group in all of Texas. The gang members uploaded a video to Facebook stating that Tekashi was not welcome in San Antonio and that penitentiary rules are in effect. One of the men in the video went on to say that his message was on behalf of the entire Tango Origin. In the threatening clip, the man named Adam Rodriguez said, "If you come to bar 23 this week, you're getting up." That was only the beginning though. The video had a number of men in it, with guns in their hands and their faces covered. Rodriguez and another gang member did all of the talking before the video ended with another man running up to the camera with a gun in hand while yelling, "We're gonna pop you right in your fucking face." The video was taken down by Facebook in just a few hours, but not before it was shared about 3,000 times. It caught the attention of law enforcement as well, who were on high alert for any gang activity. The police understood just how dangerous the Tango Origin was. As a clique of the massive Tango Blast gang network, the Origin was definitely not above resorting to violence if necessary. The network pretty much dominated Texas. According to a 2015 fiscal report, 40% of all released prisoners from that year were associated with the Tango Blast and its various subgroups. Luckily for 6ix9ine, he would face no real trouble upon his arrival in San Antonio, and he has law enforcement to thank for that. According to reports, a cop was working traffic at San Antonio International Airport, and he noticed 2 cars packed with young men driving toward him. He immediately recognized Adam Rodriguez from his viral video and called for backup. One of the cars was stopped before it could leave the airport, and Rodriguez would end up getting arrested on a terroristic threat charge, with his bond set at $5,000. In the end, Tekashi 6ix9ine's performance went off without a hitch, and he apparently even had a meet and greet with fans before the gig. While the Goons weren't able to actually get to the rapper, he should still consider himself lucky, because if they had, the odds of him walking away would have been really, really low. 6ix9ine was also probably glad that things went down smoothly in San Antonio, because he had already run into trouble while boarding a flight from Los Angeles. Brawl at LAX. Just a day before 6ix9ine's performance at Bar 23 in San Antonio, he got involved in a pretty nasty brawl at LAX. A bystander was on hand to record the entire altercation. The rapper could be seen making his way to Terminal 5 when 2 men stepped up to him and his crew before they started yelling and pointing at him. It was really random because they seemed to have come out of nowhere, but the situation quickly escalated. So at first, there was just one guy standing next to his car, yelling at 6ix9ine and his crew. After diffusing the situation at worst, Tekashi continued on his way to the terminal with his entourage, but the man wasn't done. In the video, he could be seen taking off his jacket and rushing at the rapper while cussing at the top of his lungs. This was when things really started to get out of hand. Someone from 6ix9ine's crew punched the man, who suddenly got back up in the form of another guy wearing a red tank top. It quickly turned into a brawl, making its way to the middle of the road. Unlike what would happen in San Antonio, 6ix9ine would actually end up on the receiving end of a couple of blows. With about 7 guys already fighting on the road, the rapper got involved. Video footage saw him get taken down quickly, losing a sneaker in the process. The Good Samaritan making the recording could not believe what they were seeing, saying, "Oh my God, this is too crazy." The brawl didn't last too long, and once it was over, 6ix9ine headed into the terminal with his crew, where they could be seen talking with the police. Footage from after the brawl also saw the rapper talking about why he thought the fight happened in the first place. He said, "I don't know. Everyone wants to make a name for themselves. I don't think they came for me. Nobody wants to come for me. This this is where things start to get interesting. At first, no one really knew why this fight even happened. Initial reports suggested that Tekashi 6ix9ine had dissed a woman close to the guy who first stepped up to the rapper. Considering 6ix9ine's reputation when it came to his treatment of women, this wasn't really much of a stretch. You remember the guy in the red tank top I mentioned earlier? Well, he was a rapper named AC High, and he said that he went after 6ix9ine because of him disrespecting women. In an interview, AC said that he was with another artist dropping off a few women at the airport when 6ix9ine pulled up with his crew and started hitting on them. Despite AC telling them to stop, they continued trying to get the women's attention. In addition to all of that, AC was part of a group called Aqualio. Guess where Aqualio is from? That's right, Texas. There is a second theory about the attack as well, and that makes a lot of sense too. After people learned about what had gone down at the airport, a number of people believed that the entire attack had been staged in order to promote 6ix9ine's upcoming Day 69 mixtape, which was scheduled for release on February 23, 2018. The mixtape was highly anticipated for a number of reasons, including the fact that it featured artists like Tory Lanez, Young Thug, and Fetty Wap, just to name a few. This claim adds up for a number of reasons. Firstly, the rapper was already in the news because of the threat he had received from the Tango Orajon. Secondly, a very public brawl at an airport, a place guaranteed to have a crowd, sounds exactly like something 6ix9ine would do, not just to promote his mixtape, but also because it fit his image as a loose cannon. Thirdly, the rapper posted a photo of the brawl on his Instagram account saying, "Here's the video, stop playing with us. Pre-order the tape link in bio for a shout out." Regardless of what the actual reason behind the attack was, 6ix9ine still managed to get off pretty easily. Other than getting knocked to the ground and losing a sneaker for a bit, he was pretty much fine. If anything, it was a warm-up in preparation for what he thought was waiting for him when he got to San Antonio. Robbed, beaten, and almost kidnapped in Brooklyn. Everyone knows about the role 6ix9ine played in taking down a couple of major players of the 9 Trey gangsters. But months before he became a snitch, the rapper had a terrifying run-in with some of the members of the gang. On July 22, 2018, 6ix9ine was robbed, pistol whipped, and nearly kidnapped. Luckily, he was able to make his escape. In a statement given to the New York Police Department, the rapper said that he was in the passenger seat of a car when another vehicle bumped into him around 4:30 in the morning. Two people jumped out, called another man, stole his jewelry, and left. That was one version of events. In another less official report, it was revealed that a car blocked the rapper's driveway. 3 men jumped out and pistol whipped him before dragging him into their car. Once inside, they allegedly threatened 6ix9ine, telling him to give them all his money and jewelry if he wanted to get out of the car alive. The rapper gave them jewelry valued at about $750,000, in addition to between $15,000 and $20,000 in cash. According to 6ix9ine himself, he was able to escape the kidnapper's car by opening the back door and jumping out, running into a stranger, and making it to a police precinct. The injuries the rapper sustained were bad enough for him to be admitted to the hospital. It was a completely insane, terrifying encounter that clearly stuck with 6ix9ine. The next year, around September 2019, he revisited the events of July 22, 2018, while testifying against the 9 Trey gangster bloods. You might be asking how the two events are related. Well, as it turns out, one of his kidnappers was Anthony Harves Ellison, a member of the 9 Trey gangsters. The other kidnapper was one of Ellison's friends, only referred to as Shaw. The New York Daily News recounted 6ix9ine's testimony focused on the kidnapping. The kidnapping, Tekashi said, began at around 4 a.m. Ellison rammed a stolen car into a Chevy Tahoe, driven by Tekashi's driver, Jorge Rivera, at Atlantic Ave and Bedford Ave, he testified. Tekashi, who was in the backseat of the SUV, briefly choked up as he recounted the kidnapping. As the rapper continued his testimony, he said that he had been caught slipping. Caught slipping basically means that 6ix9ine was caught off guard in a bad situation that he should have been better prepared for. He also said that he was hoping against hope that Ellison and Shaw wouldn't shoot him. That could have very well happened though. As the rapper continued his testimony, he said that his driver, Jorge Rivera, was following them until Ellison pulled over and scared him off. After this, Tekashi 6ix9ine was potentially just seconds away from being murdered. He said, "Shaw pinned me down on the floor by my hair and he just kept hitting me." Shaw also allegedly told Ellison that they should whack 6ix9ine right then and there, but luckily for the rapper, he reached an agreement with Ellison. If he gave them his jewelry, they would let him go, but that didn't quite happen. According to 6ix9ine, once he kept up his end of the deal, they kept him in the car and continued to drive. The New York Daily News then wrote, Tekashi made a run for it near a housing project known as Smurf Village, fearing Ellison was going to shoot him in the back. Tekashi jumped into the back seat of a random car at a nearby stop sign. The driver told him to get out, Tekashi recalled. "Bro, I'm about to die, just drive," Tekashi said. Let's just do a quick recap. Between February and July 2018, Tekashi 6ix9ine had bottles and ice buckets thrown at him and also had gunshots go off after one of his gigs while he was in Minnesota. Then when he was going to fly from Los Angeles to San Antonio, trouble was brewing at either end of the flight. At LAX, he got involved in a brawl, and when he landed in San Antonio, he was the target of the most dangerous gang in the state. The only reason nothing happened while he was there was because the police were at the top of its game. This stuff happened in just a couple of weeks in February. Then in July, he got beaten, robbed, and nearly kidnapped. To top it off, he landed up in the hospital. The first half of the year had been extremely eventful for the rapper, but 2018 was not done with him yet. Jumped by a rival gang in prison, Tekashi 6ix9ine snitching put a massive target on his back. There is a lot you can get away with on the streets, but snitching is considered one of the worst things you can do when it comes to the codes of the street. Just a couple of days before he got arrested, in an interview, the rapper stated that he only feared two things: God and the FBI. This was on November 16th, 2018. On November 18th, 6ix9ine was pulled up on RICO charges alongside 4 of his associates. He was also facing robbery charges and a conspiracy to commit murder charge. He was initially facing over 30 years in prison, with the assistant U.S. attorney stating Tekashi is a member of a violent sect of the Bloods. This defendant participated in multiple acts of violence. Anyway, on November 26, 2018, the rapper was seen heading to court with a very noticeable limp. In the previous week, it had been reported that 6ix9ine had been jumped in prison by rival gang members, and he was clearly still feeling the effects of the attack when he headed to court. The rapper had initially been placed in the general population at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center. In light of the attack, prosecutors still argued that he was safer behind bars than as a free man because they had learned of a plan 6ix9ine's former affiliates had formed to hurt the rapper. This lined up pretty well because the previous week, the rapper had allegedly fired a lot of his management team, stating that they had been stealing money from him. In court, 6ix9ine's lawyer confirmed that the rapper had been moved to a detention center that was safer for people who had cut deals with the feds. Citing security reasons, it further confirmed that he had been jumped while in prison. As I had mentioned earlier, the 9 Trey gangsters were an especially violent sect of the Bloods. This meant that the group was at odds with the Crips, with the rivalry dating back all the way to the 1970s, potentially even earlier. Anyway, while reports suggested he had been jumped by a rival gang, they never explicitly mentioned the Crips. But looking back at all the bad blood between the two gangs, the Crips remain a safe bet. He may have been moved to a safer detention center, but the rapper remained between a rock and a hard place. He was either going to be targeted by the Crips or by his own former allies. The 9 Trey gangsters had a blood-soaked past and were still reeling from a couple of big hits when 6ix9ine decided to snitch to the feds. So way back in 1993, the United Blood Nation, or the UBN, was formed by creating an alliance between several gangs in Rikers Island. One of the most feared gangs to join up, the 9 Trey gangsters. Okay, let's jump forward in time a little bit. In 2017, over 80 members of the UBN were brought in on RICO charges and a bunch of other crimes. It was a massive operation, and the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of North Carolina said, "The Bloods are a violent gang that poses a serious threat to the safety and stability of our communities. This case is an outstanding example of what federal, state, and local law enforcement can accomplish when we strike back at gangs and dismantle gang networks that spread violence in our cities and fear in our neighborhood." Still reeling from this massive loss, the UBN and 9 Trey gangsters now also had to deal with Tekashi 6ix9ine, who was snitching on all of them to save his own skin. The reason I took a second to talk about the Bloods as a whole for a bit is because it is important to understand just how little people thought of the rapper once he snitched off them. The Bloods are one of the most recognizable gangs in the world, and 6ix9ine had pissed them off. Absolutely no one had any respect for him, and there was no doubt he would be facing retribution for his actions as well. Both those things would end up happening in the years that followed. Sucker punched outside a club, compared to some of the other incidents 6ix9ine has been involved in. This might feel a little tame, but if anything, it is probably the most insulting and disrespectful of all the encounters as well. On April 27th, 2022, the rapper was at a Miami nightclub for a gig. As the night was winding down around 2 in the morning, a random guy sucker punched Tekashi as he was walking by. It seemingly came out of nowhere. Video footage of the incident showed the rapper walking out of the club with his guard. grass. As soon as he passed the guy, he got clocked in the back of the head. Tekashi's security obviously responded immediately, and the situation quickly descended into chaos. Apparently, the rapper tried to save face by taking pictures and signing autographs for fans. The reason this incident is so insulting is that there was a time not too long ago when 6ix9ine was a star on the rise, and he was beefing with high-profile names in the industry. But after several dumb decisions and becoming a federal informant, he had lost whatever credibility he had. That opened the door for random guys to just step up and sucker punch him for no reason. Well, not quite for no reason. A few days later, the sucker puncher appeared in an interview and spoke about why he did what he did. Like so many instances in the past, the rapper had acted like a bully, and the puncher believed 6ix9ine got exactly what he deserved. He said,
and when he came in the club, he kept videoing our section, and his guys kept walking past us. We don't know that dude. Like, we don't know him. And they kept videoing us and stuff like that. Then on his story, he posts N-words, is P-U-S-S-Y, we outside. And you know, it just hit a nerve, man. It's like why is you doing all that?
The sucker puncher was later identified as a Miami-based producer-songwriter. Once people knew who he was, it was only a matter of time before someone got even on 6ix9ine's behalf. A few months after the initial incident, video footage showed the sucker puncher getting sucker punched himself while standing at a urinal. Tekashi 6ix9ine then weighed in on the entire situation, saying, he went on TMZ and he basically admitted to assaulting me. He said, I did it. I never pressed charges on him, but he made himself a target by going on TMZ. I think it's a sad case. The rapper cheekily wrapped things up by saying he wished him a speedy recovery. The entire ordeal, as ridiculous as it was, managed to come full circle. It started with a sucker punch, and it ended with a sucker punch. That's kind of poetic when you think about it. Anyway, the most violent attack Tekashi has had to endure so far would take place the next year, when he would be brutally beaten in a gym restroom, jumped in a Florida gym. In March 2023, the rapper walked into a LA Fitness in South Florida. Upon heading to the bathroom, he would be met by a group of men who beat the living daylights out of them. While on the surface, this might have looked like a random attack, video footage suggested that it may have been planned. The footage showed one of the attackers already inside the gym. He then proceeded to open the door and let another man in before briefly speaking with someone at the front desk and then making a beeline for the restroom. The footage of the beating itself is pretty disturbing. While being passed around on social media, 6ix9ine was labeled a rat, and that his actions would not be tolerated in the hood. That wasn't all though, as during the beating, one of the attackers could be heard saying, take a picture. I'm going to be famous now. The rapper would end up with injuries to his face, jaw, back, and ribs, and would need to be hospitalized for treatment. A few days later, 6ix9ine would open up about the attack, saying that it was nothing short of cowardly, while also stating that it was not a fair fight. The three attackers would be identified as Rafael Medina, Octavius Medina, and Anthony Maldonado, and the rapper would continue to take shots at them, saying, just imagine having nothing to do with the situation and feel obligated to make it your business. Very weird. I never knew we respected jumping people. When did that ever become a W? But the thing is, not all of the attackers had nothing to do with the situation. Rafael Medina was the oldest of the three attackers and also a well-known member of the Latin Kings, holding a high-ranking position in the gang. A report suggested that there was reason to believe Medina was the president of the Palm Beach County chapter of the Latin Kings. Medina was also convicted in the mid-2000s as part of a federal RICO case with the gang, so he might have a bone to pick with someone who snitched and sent high-ranking members of the 9 Trey gangsters to prison on the same charges that had landed him behind bars as well. But here's the kicker. The Latin Kings have been allies of the Bloods for a long time. And as I had mentioned earlier, the 9 Trey gangsters are a part of the Bloods, so Medina is very closely linked to Tekashi 6ix9ine. Despite that though, the rapper himself did not seem to be too worried. According to reports, he did nothing to beef up his security, despite being one of the most hated men in the industry, and even went as far as to call the attack a fluke. The rapper's response to that brutal attack sort of sums up his entire mindset. Despite being beaten black and blue in an attack led by a man associated with a gang who hates him, Tekashi 6ix9ine doesn't seem outwardly worried. If anything, he antagonized them further by calling them cowards. These have been the common threads across all these incidents. Tekashi has either been directly responsible or things he has done in the past have come back to haunt him. Until he understands that he is responsible for all those beatings and threats he has received, the only thing keeping him in line will be getting checked by goons. And that's our video. If you liked what you just saw, check one of these out too. I'll catch you in the next one.